All right, so we are going through chapter 21, like I said, and we are stopping into the hypertrophy section today, one of the easier phases of the OPT model to program and understand, although just because it's easy doesn't mean it isn't one of our most valuable. This is probably the one you're going to use most with your clients. Before we do though, let's do a quick review. I want to show you guys one more version of strength endurance that I think works really well personally. And in strength endurance, that's the only version of the OPT model other than stabilization that I would use this training split with. So we're gonna look at kind of a different one. We're gonna see, we're still gonna have like the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. By the way, I know I've been doing like a lot of like Monday, Wednesday, Friday things. Um, you don't necessarily have to do it that way. It's just something that I find is sort of the best example of like even distribution. Whatever your client's schedule is, you can get into that. And then we're going to look at 4-day and 5-day routines as we sort of move through the rest of the OPT. Um, but today we're looking, we're going to say that this is where we're going to do like workout A slash B. This is going to be workout B slash A. And then we'll say workout A slash B again. So again, this is that kind of classic A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B split. Really common, super easy to use with your clients and stuff. But we're going to look at it like this. We're going to have workout A, and this is going to be chest, back, and shoulders. And then we're going to look at workout B is going to be something I mentioned yesterday but didn't show you. Legs slash biceps slash triceps. Now, this workout split, it's not a bad one, but the disadvantage to it that I mentioned yesterday is that, well, it's a little weird because your arms are really kind of going to get used every single workout, right? Like when I'm doing my chest, I'm using my triceps, I'm using my back, I'm using my biceps. So if you kind of think about it, you're really using those muscles every single time. You know what I mean? But they are type 1 muscle fibers. They do recover really well. So especially if you're doing a relatively high repetition workout, which means you're in strength endurance or stabilization, that works pretty well as well. If you're in either of those two phases, you're mostly doing high repetition exercise. So since you're doing high repetition exercise, you're mostly training type 1 anyhow. Your intensity is not too high. You don't probably have to worry too much about breakdown. And what I really like about this is it gives us an opportunity to, let our clients like feel like they're using their biceps and triceps, but really it's kind of a sneakier way to get some more leg work in. So we're going to kind of look at this resistance section a little bit different than we have in previous workouts here. So we're going to do the same thing that we normally do. We're going to open a blank OPT model here. And like I said, I do like to build these things side by side. So we're going to save this as yet another strength endurance example. So we're going to say phase 2, 2-day split example. And save this workout A. Whoops, go back. Crash. What was that? Yeah, sorry. Example A. And you will be example B. So there's our two. We'll get these kind of side by side here, and we'll kind of lay this out. Now, again, we do want to do that superset thing that, again, feels more like a drop set thing, even though it is officially a superset thing. It's just a very specific NASM style of supersetting. So we still want to do that. So we're going to kind of start with our warm up here. We can see if we sort of look at like our training plan, right? I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, chest, shoulders, and back. That's a very upper body day, right? So this is a good opportunity for us to get some upper body specific stretches in there. And just because we've done a couple examples already, I am going to do a little bit of NASM rule breaking today. I'm probably going to take some of the balance out of this. Like I talked about yesterday, I'll do that sometimes and move it more to like my other workout and give it a little bit of extra emphasis. So this really kind of becomes like almost a bit of a vanity muscle day versus like a more functional day in some ways. But look at this. Let's start. This is going to be our upper body. So we're going to say this is phase two. Again, we'll say this is 10, 9, and we'll say the other one is 10, 11. Also phase two. But this is going to be our upper body. We'll say no. It's chest, back, and shoulders. And this is going to be legs and arms. So there's kind of our setup here, right? So this is where I'm going to move through my movement prep a little bit more quickly than I may have in my other workouts. So we'll start with a little bit of SMR. Let's go with thoracic spine, lats. We always need that. And pec minor is also always a really good one. I know that one's not always the easiest to do because it requires an actual lacrosse ball, but really good, right? So one set, 30 seconds each, right? Over here, we're going to get more into the legs. So SMR for, my favorites are always the hip flexors, TFL, and the calves. It's always a pretty darn big one. So we'll go 30 seconds each there. Now, this is still a phase. We're in phase two, which means we're in level two. So pulling up either my notes here that we're using today, which has all my rules, or pulling up my big chart with all the rules, or just looking in my textbook, I can see I'm supposed to pick anywhere between 1 to 3 sets, 5 to 10 reps with a 1 to 2 second hold each. So we want to follow these up. Now, we're going to get little bit of cat-cow action, which is always really good. So we'll say an active cat-cow stretch. Let's go with an active. We'll do a standing lat stretch today. That's the one, Trisha, I had you modify yesterday, where you just kind of grab the rack of something. Let's do an active pec wall stretch. No surprise there. That's a very big popular one. But maybe I need a little bit of neck work as well, right? In particular. So we'll do an active upper trapezius stretch. Right here, just kind of pulling that over to the side and relaxing, pulling over to the side and relaxing, and then switching to my other side. So we'll do that, and we'll get 2 sets of everything because I always really like 2. And we'll do 10 reps each of all of that. Hold each rep for 2 seconds. And copy and paste. Now, I did add an extra one today. A lot of our examples have been like 3 stretches. We got 4 today. So I got to make sure I do the same thing over here when I'm doing leg day. So we'll probably do an active kneeling hip flexor stretch. Let's do an active, I don't do very often is the standing TFL stretch. That's actually where you use a wall to, it's really hard for me to show. That's the one where you're going to go onto a wall like so. I just had it. And you're going to kind of kick this leg back. I don't like this one as much just because you're trapped between between like the floor and your body. Like it's in like a closed pack position. So I'm not as big of a fan of this one typically. I normally like the real like standing lungy one. But you can do this version and you can kind of kick your hip into the wall there, and it can be a decent one. And just for the sake of variety, let's throw that in there. So an active standing TFL stretch. We got to get the calves in there. So we'll do an active heel drop stretch. That is also a different calf one that we don't do quite as often, but you're going to drop the heel like so. Basically just hang that foot off and give that like a nice big length in there. And then we got some room here for one other stretch. We either want to maybe get into the upper body since we are going to, maybe some triceps action like right here since we're going to be doing those muscles. But I don't know, unless they got tennis elbow or anything like that. I don't do a lot of arm stretches personally. I'm like, most of my clients are tight around the lumbopelvic hip complex, So I'd probably personally go with just another variation of something that's going to be really tight, like an adductor. If they had knees cave in, I probably would have put that in here. Or I might do an active biceps femoris stretch. Everybody's favorite stretch in the whole wide world. If you do not remember what this one is, it is the one that, in my opinion, feels awful. Uh, this is the supine one where you lay on your back, but you go across your body. That's also going to get the other part of that IT band. So, actually, there's a great, I can't see it there. That's awesome. But the standing version, not this. This is actually specifically not how to do an active. This is a good hamstring stretch, like for the entire hamstring as a whole. I don't hate this, but she's reaching with the same side. It's kind of opening her hip up. She's relatively straight, but you can kind of see it opens the hip up naturally. We want to do, we're doing a biceps femoris stretch. We actually want to go counter to the direction our leg is going. So you can see he came across his body. This is his right leg here. Is coming across over to his left side. And then his hands are straight forward. If you wanted to get even deeper, he would bring his hands further over to his right. And so the bigger you get that twist in there, like we're saying with the twist here, right? The more we do something like that, the better that's going to be. So, Trisha, if I had somebody with like runner's knee, that rubbing sensation on the, just below and lateral to the knee.
Yeah.
This is totally like a warm up that I would use. And actually, active stretches have been shown to be a little bit more effective for things like the TFL and the biceps femoris because they are very fascia oriented and long duration stretches. If you're stretching like this and you're making this face the whole time, well, that probably isn't actually relaxing you very well, is it? uh,
Probably not.
yeah. So there we go. We got and then we can kind of copy our sets and reps. Again, we're doing a good job here of making sure that our workouts are going to time out the same. So you think about like how long this is going to take, that's going to be about 90 seconds. Well, I guess a little bit longer than that. So that's 1, 2, 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes for our SMR there. And then like 2 sets, holding each of these, maybe 1 to 2 seconds each. That's going to be, I don't know, let's say 30, no, 30 because they're two sides. So that one's just by itself, but 30, 60, 90. So that's 3 minutes plus another. So we're looking at a 6.5 minute warm up for both of these. Not too bad. That's not going to be awful. Again, this is something that I'm probably going to teach my client, and then I expect them to have it done every time, they show up. So for core and balance, again, we have our chest, back, shoulders day. This is a very upper body day. So I am actually going to put a little bit more emphasis on core here rather than putting emphasis on the balance. This is something I said that I didn't. Lisa, I think you caught me on this specifically yesterday. You were kind of like, wait. You would do this? I'd be like, yeah. Like it kind of actually in real life, like if I'm actually not using the legs too much, I might not do a lot of balance training. So because this is like a very upper body day, we're going to see an example of that. I am going to go a little off of NASM's rails here just slightly and show you what I would do in real life. I'm going to do double core, and then over here I'll do single core plus one more balance exercise. So for the upper body day, let's get a prone. We want something that's going to something that's going to move the spine, right? Because that's the emphasis of the strength level. But I also really want to get that upper body primed and warmed up. So a prone cobra is a pretty great exercise, but it's a stabilization level core exercise. And the reason why, let's take a look here. Wow. Let's take a look at the prone cobra. This isn't really going to move my spine much. We go here.
As I'm in the midst of applying for residency right now, Grammarly has again been a lifesaver with my application.
So you'll notice she's really keeping her spine kind of in one spot. She is doing a lot of like shoulder movement. And I want that shoulder movement in order to warm up my upper body. So I like what's going on here, right? But I want to make it a little bit more strength oriented. So here's another thing you can do where like sometimes an exercise can be named one thing, but you can put a little coaching tip in there to kind of shift it from one phase to another. I want more spinal movement. So maybe what I'll do is instead of a prone cobra, I'll do a Superman, which if we look at that, that's going to be this version where the arms and the legs both come up. So now we've got this like big spinal extension. Very good for the core, very good for the back. But the arms are kind of staying put now, So the arms are just kind of like going in one position, and the upper back's getting some work here. This is one of the reasons why I like prone cobra, but it's not quite getting as much upper back work as I would like. I really want to make sure I get like something that specifically like retracts the shoulder blades. So I might do something like a Superman to A. Okay. At least that's what I have always called it. So Superman to A, a little harder for me to find. Oops. Little bit harder to find. But basically, you are going to start in a Superman position. Internet not helping me out here. Seeing a lot of Supermans. Maybe this one here. Also, I don't love the tons of head movement. You don't actually need that much like head movement. God, that looks like an AI image. Okay. So what you'll do is you're going to lift your arms up Superman style. But then what you do is before you set them down, you're going to bring them back into that A position, pinch the shoulder blades down, bring them back up, and then bring yourself to the floor. So you go up into an A and down, right? Up into an A and down. That is one of my favorite big shoulder warm-ups. Really good for shoulder health. Just work on that. You can also do a W style Superman, kind of like we're seeing in this picture here. That's also a really good way to get a better upper back pinch because you can really kind of, bring those shoulder blades back in together. So you can see there's a couple people doing examples of like that version in here, right? I also do like, I just call those W Supermans because it looks like a W here. But Superman A is one of my favorite upper back core warm-ups. Then we probably want something a little bit more traditional. We'll do the hanging leg raises. Really good one to get the core turned on. Over here, we want our core still, especially on like, a leg day where we're lifting relatively heavy. So we get a little bit more abdominal action here. Maybe something, maybe we'll do something like a cable wood chop, right? And then that's going to be really good at like working the obliques. Then we do want to get some version of balance in there. Like I said, I really like things like step up to balances. I think those are a really good example, but I think we used that yesterday. So let's go with, we'll do a lateral lunge to balance. That's a fun one. If you don't know the lateral lunge to balance, and actually we're going to do a cable wood chop high to low. Really focus on the obliques there. So lateral lunge to balance is you're going to lunge. Ooh, I'm thinking that guy's going to jump actually. Get it good? Oh, wow. Not that. That's a regular lateral lunge. Not that. That's a regular lateral lunge. Come on, internet. Not that. Oh my God. All right. To the YouTubes. Grr. Is there a lateral? I always do the reverse stuff as well. Yeah, this has it in the name. If this guy doesn't balance, I'm gonna lose it. There we go. So he's gonna lunge, and he's gonna come up onto one leg. So he lunges out and comes up onto one leg. Lunge to balance, right? And we get our hands there just in case we ever want to do that goblet hold to make it harder with a kettlebell. So there we go. Now, we do want to take a look at how we're doing this here. So what are our rules for repetition schemes? We want to follow those. Well, we take a look over here. For core, we're going to pick anywhere between 2 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 reps at a moderate tempo. For balance, 2 to 4 sets, 8 to 12 reps at a moderate tempo. Pretty easy for us to keep our workouts timed out relatively similarly. So we are going to go with 3 sets each. Let's go with 12 reps of those, 12 reps of those, moderate tempo. And again, you guys know I love my superset warm-ups. So we'll say 0 seconds there, 60 seconds there. The only difference is I do need to put 12 each here and 12 each here. Now, that is doubling the amount of time because these are both single-sided exercises. That's actually going to double how long it takes me to get through the set. So I need to keep that in mind when I get down here into resistance. But lucky for us, that's not going to be too hard. So now we need our chest, shoulder, and back stuff. We're going to go with mostly the classics today. But we haven't used the regular old bench press as an example yet. And we're going to superset that with, let's do a medicine ball push-up. All right, that'll be a good one. For our back, let's do a seated row. We haven't done that yet. And we'll pair that. You can actually do on the seated row machine. You can do a relatively like stabilization version there, simply by going into like a little half squat and just try to keep yourself from getting pulled forward. It is much tougher than it seems. So I can do a half squat seated row. Looks a little goofy, so you know, prepare to be judged, but it's really good. And then for our shoulder exercise, let's do a dumbbell lateral raise into, actually, you know, we've done a lot of that so far. Let's do a dumbbell reverse fly into a cable face pull. So cable face pull, just like this. If you actually look at it, very similar to a reverse fly. Just I go from a straight elbow to a bent elbow. Probably one of our, not quite perfectly biomechanically similar, but pretty close. And again, we'll go with the 4 sets here. And moderate tempo, slow tempo. It's a superset, so 0 seconds there, 60 seconds there. So another very decent strength endurance sort of layout here, you know. I just realized I forgot to review with you guys the reps. They're over here. 2 to 4 sets, 8 to 12 reps. Moderate tempo for the strength, slow tempo for the stabilization. Supersets. So there we go. Like that's our upper body day, right? Again, that's going to serve us pretty well. Now, lower body wise, we're going to do something kind of fun. We're going to change this up ever so slightly. This is going to look just a little bit different. So we are going to do a barbell squat. And we're going to pair that with something like a Bosu ball squat. Then over here for our hinging section, we'll probably do like a deadlift. And we want to get a little bit unstable here. So maybe we'll go with like a Bosu ball. Good morning. It's a really good unstable exercise. Now, I told you guys we're going to do a little bit of rule breaking, and type 1 muscle, the biceps and triceps are already type 1 muscle fibers. So I don't like to spend a ton of time, on arms. I'm looking at how I have to do this now. I need to get both sides of my legs here, which is more important. I could just do legs, and then I could make this biceps and then this little blank spot here. I could just make that triceps. And now I've done legs and arms, But the arms just don't need that much attention, especially if they're getting a lot of attention already with our compound movements on the other day. So what we're going to do is we're going to break NASM's rules here a little bit. And we're going to still do a superset, but we're not going to do the whole the double superset thing. We're not going to put together our strength plus stabilization. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to use 2 strength movements, and we're going to do them both here together as a superset. So I'm going to do we'll do a preacher curl. Why not? I don't particularly love the preacher curl as an exercise, but it's coming to mind. So we'll do a preacher curl. That's the one on the bench. We're going like this. And then we'll do a seated overhead tricep extension. Now the seated overhead triceps extension, that is different than the skull crushers. This is the one where you're actually sitting upright. Actually, this is also not one of my favorites, but hey, I already did preacher curls, so why not do my other? I don't hate these exercises. I'll use them. They're never the ones that come first to mind, except for today, apparently. So you're there, dumbbells overhead, bring it back and straight up. Working against gravity there. So we are breaking NASM's rule here. I want you guys to see that, we're doing it intentionally because otherwise this workout would be longer. I would need another superset, and then my workouts don't time out similarly. I don't think I can get through that in an hour. But it is where we also did this kind of odd training split here, This is a bit of an off-speed pitch. This is an odd train. It's a change-up, Normally, you'd probably want to put your back on its separate day, pair that with biceps, and that would fit a lot better with leg day. Or you'd want to have 3 days, like we did yesterday, But if you have a client who can only work out, 3 days a week, but sometimes they miss, this is still giving them a pretty good distribution of like all around, and they're not skipping their legs very often. Which again, I'll tell you, is just the legs are just more important than the arms, So I wanted to kind of open today with like a bit of a rule break. So we're going to go here. We're going to keep this the same. The only difference is, as I paste this, it's not moderate and slow over here. It's moderate and moderate because they're both just strength variations for those arms. But this still works very well for the rest of that workout. And what's nice about this is because we are taking one of our slow exercises out of here. This is how I've done this before. I told you we got kind of weird here with our example where like this kind of doubled up and I was going to have to make up for it down here. Changing that tempo down to moderate is going to make up for that lost time. So then I need a cool down. For me, we're just going to keep it simple today. We're going to copy paste our cooldown. But these are going to we want these to be static variations, which actually can't do static cat-cow, so it's going to become child's pose. We'll do static, and a static. And this all becomes one set of 30 seconds each. This becomes blank. Same thing up here. Extras. Any questions just while I'm doing like just editing here? Any questions about like, this is a bit of a, I wanted to show you just, again, if we're being intention, this is breaking some of NASM's rules, but not in a way that's going to be like detrimental to my client's workout. I mostly followed NASM's rules. Do you guys see how I broke them, why I broke them? Does this workout make sense? Questions, comments, concerns, check it in with you guys. Anything?
Makes sense.
Okay, I'll take it. All right.
Say that again. I think I didn't get that. Say it again.
I'm just saying, does this make sense as a workout?
Okay.
Just like
Yes.
checking in with you guys, did you see why I broke the rules, how I broke the rules? I didn't break them by doing it wrong. I broke them with intention of being like, this is what's going to work better for my
You're a
client.
rebel.
Yeah. This variation. So check the chat, everybody. I just put that workout in there. The Superman A might be a little hard to find on the internet, but hopefully it's relatively self-explanatory. All right, so that's there's our preamble. There's our warm-up to what we're getting into today. Now let's move into phase 3. Phase 3, by the way, also works pretty well with this workout. What's nice is if you keep it a little bit simpler. I did actually, we'll do that. Just a quick little aside. I'm only gonna do this to one of these. Let's not do it to both. But let's say I had the same client and I want to make it phase 3. What day am I on? I picked the chest, shoulder, tricep day. Great. If I want this to be a phase 3 workout, all I do is get rid of the supersets. And now I've got a pretty good one, but that's also relatively low volume. So if I get rid of one of these, cut the core down to just like one core exercise there. Give myself some space. Copy this and paste it again. I actually don't like this exercise order, but we're being really simplistic here. And I just change this from a bench press to, let's say, like an incline chest press. We'll say machine. Why not? I'm going to use machines today just because. We'll change this to a lat pull down. And we'll change this to a lateral raise machine. There's a hypertrophy workout. I can drop these reps down a little bit. If I wanted to, make it a little bit heavier. I could get fancy with the reps a little bit. And I could say like these first 3 are really heavy. And these second 3 are a little bit lighter. Hypertrophy workouts, very, very easy to write. And again, they progress directly out of once you have a good amount of endurance, now you can get into a little bit more like size growth.
So you're not concerned with balance at all here. You're like, I've done it in phase 1 or level 1.
Yes and no. Mostly the reason I'm not concerned with balance in this particular workout is just because this is a very upper body day.
Okay.
But on the lower body day, I would still have at least one balance exercise in there. I never fully get rid of balance, Lisa. And for me, it's just too important for people to not sprain their ankle while walking like down the street. You know what I mean? But you're right. I definitely don't put as much emphasis in balance. If I have developed really good, like if I've done my job correctly and I've done a really good stabilization level with my clients and I cycle back to stabilization every now and then, I don't do as much balance. No, in real life. But I still very much do it on balance is just too good of a way to get your legs warmed up right before you go under the barbell. It's just too good at like getting your glutes to be like, oh God, yeah, sorry, I was asleep. It's too good for it. So my particular favorite, if you actually want to know what I do with most of my clients is that heel tap.
So then to keep the balance incorporated, would you think it'd be easier to, especially if you're at this phase, to incorporate it mainly as part of the warm-up instead of through the workout?
Ooh, yeah. Oh, sorry. As I thought you were gonna say instead of part of the movement prep. If you will do it in activation. And activation, remember, is still kind of like the warm-up. It's a little bit of core and a little bit of balance. It's before the workout, but it is still after what NASM calls the warm-up. Like it's still after the stretching, but before the like lifting, you know?
So mainly emphasize on mainly on the activation aspect.
Exactly. Then
Okay.
that's what I'm saying with balance training. I never really fully get rid of balance. But when I start to get into like advanced workouts where I might be doing like a 4-day split with someone, which is like maybe like upper, lower. On the lower days, I'll do balance still because it's just too good at turning someone's glutes on. But yeah, I would probably in real life personally, I mostly sacrifice balance work on upper body days. There's also more sections of the upper body than there are the lower body. So mathematically, just in timing wise, I'm like, if I sacrifice a balance exercise while doing, any of this stuff, which there's 3 of, versus just like front of the legs, back of the legs. If it's like front of the legs, back of the legs, and balance, now I've got 3 things again. So I've got 3v3, you know? Um, so I find that it times out better as well. But this one right here, guys, the heel tap. Okay. Um, Squat touch down. I did show you this one. I also really like this. He's doing the full-blown, very advanced version where it's like a big step here. Yeah, there we go. This version right here, this is actually my favorite balance exercise that I use with basically, I mean, honestly, yeah, basically every one of my clients. And Shantice, we've talked about this before. I'm not particularly great at pistol squats unless I get to elevate my heel, just because of my darn hamstring flexibility. But you guys can see it is essentially working on either laterally, and that depends. If I have a client who really needs like their lateral glutes turned on, I have them reach to the side. If they're just somebody who just needs their maximal glutes turned on, I usually have them swing forward. But this exercise right here, just this touchdown, it's my go-to. It's like I use it with almost everybody. It's okay to have your favorites, by the way. You'll get your, but step up to balances are also really good. If I have a client who's like weight loss oriented, step up to balances are probably my favorite because they burn the most calories. When you do that step up to balance, it really gets you huffing and puffing, because there's just a lot of movement there and you can really fire the reps out quickly. So that's one that I like better for weight loss. So yeah, I've got my favorites in general. I've got my favorites for specific situations. But simple answer, because you asked a very simple question and then I overcomplicated it. In strength, I don't do as much balance. No, I do still do a lot of balance in strength. I just usually don't do it on upper body days. I use it as a glute activator. All right. So we're gonna have to pause the recording, but let's get the video pulled up. First, because we are talking about muscular development, shifting out of, oh, that's awesome. They did a collab. That's exciting. Sorry. Shifting out of strength endurance, a little bit more athleticism in that phase of training, and shifting into muscular development, which is a little bit more about like larger muscles and growing them. We want to talk very much about like what are the things that are most important to trigger muscle growth. How do I take a muscle and really force it to gain size? And most of that is going to be training volume here, but the right version of this. Actually, that might do it, but that's not the one I was planning on showing. Maybe I'll take a pit stop there. But afterwards. You're killing me here. Actually, that might be it. I think it was this one. I just didn't think that was the right. I didn't think that was the right thumbnail, but I could be wrong. It happens a lot. Skip. All right. Lisa, you've seen this one before. But this one's very helpful. All right. So there's our video. Stop. How much training volume do you really need? Science explained. That is what you guys are looking up. Let's take a look at the hypertrophy stuff here. Scrolling down to our phase 3 here, right? Muscular development. The focus here is on muscular hypertrophy. The idea is that we are really emphasizing trying to squeeze every drop of blood out of that stone in terms of what we can get in muscle size, muscle growth, right? So we definitely know that we want to have all of the variables that maybe they're not the best for endurance, maybe they're not the best for athleticism, but if they are the best for growth and they are sort of like meeting, that's where we want to be. You know what I mean? So like we might look at like, you know, imagine a sort of a line graph in your head. You know, something like this. Right? Maybe it like let's say this is strength. We'll say like, you know, this is endurance. So if you look at something that's like really high in strength, excuse me, it's probably not very high. Oh my gosh. Sorry. It's probably not very high in endurance. Couldn't do that during the video. So it's maybe like something right here, right? Or we got something that's like really good for endurance, that's not particularly good for strength, but it might be right here. But if you were to have like another sort of look at this, right? This kind of line graph here, right? That should be blue. And this one should be red. Hypertrophy is probably somewhere in the middle of these two. And while, you know, you can see like if I go with purple here, I may not be getting the most strength, I'm clearly below it, and I may not be getting the most endurance, I'm clearly below it, but I am getting the best muscle growth. And one of the ways you can sort of interpret this is take your line graph a little bit further here, take you guys back to math class here. That triangle's not very full, or not very big, rather. That triangle, also not very big. But you think about this, it's a friggin' square. And therefore it is massive in terms of how much space it's taken up. So we're getting, you know, hypertrophy here is, you know, we like this big square. It's not the strongest person in the world. It's not the most endurance person in the world, but it is in terms of muscle growth. Numbers that are right in the middle that are going to be really effective. So the focus is on increasing volume. Again, that's the number of sets that you're doing and intensity. So we are getting heavier of our program in the hopes of growing muscles the most. So it is actually still very good for weight loss and cardio, though. There's nothing wrong with, you know, using a hypertrophy workout for weight loss. It may not, you know, now you are sort of running into this issue of if I'm trying to gain muscle, why am I in a calorie deficit? You know, that doesn't make any sense. But it's like, well, you're trying to maintain as much muscle as you can while you're in a calorie deficit. You know, and if it's an untrained individual or somebody who's new to this style of training, they actually still might get some muscle growth, even in that, you know, restricted calorie range. Most people, they're going to need excessive calories in order to experience growth, but they don't always have to pair together. They can be very, very good for those things. So we are going to change our acute variables and move those around a little bit. So you can see here in phase 3, 3 to 6 sets. So our sets are going up. Our reps are coming down, 6 to 12, still a moderate tempo, but our intensity is going to be hard enough. Now, we want to make sure that we are laying out 10 to 20 sets per week. If I were to do this training split that we talked about earlier, chest, back, shoulders, triceps, and legs. Now I'm allowed to do anywhere between 3 and 6 sets. So if I did, let's say 5, right, I'm trying to get to 10, sets, right? It would look something kind of like this. Workout A would be chest times 5, and I have to do that twice. That's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 sets in one workout. Not very realistic, right? Like that is probably not going to happen, Now, to be fair, I've got workout A and workout B here. So on half, like if I'm doing A, B, and A again, that's 2 in 1 week. Then I really only need half of this. But then you're thinking about it's like, okay, well, this is averaging out. So that's averaging out to about 7.5 sets per week. So that's still not, well, sorry, no, that would be 20. No, so it's averaging out to 12. So even if I took this to like 3 and 3, right? If I made everything just like threes, even that is still, if we look at that over the course of a week, you know what I mean? Like if I'm looking at that, like I did that on Monday, I did it on Friday. Okay, like I got 3, 6, 9, I got 12 sets in. So I ended up in the 10 to 20 set window, which is pretty good, right? Next week, I was in the 6 set window. So it's like I'm averaging around 9 sets per week. It's not terrible, I don't dislike that. This is actually a pretty good option. And then I'm also getting 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 sets in a workout. That's probably a little bit more manageable. I can probably pull that off, much more likely at least. But again, like we look at this, it's like it's probably just not the most optimal training split for doing this. So instead, we're going to look at a 3-day split for hypertrophy, which is really where most of my hypertrophy routines start. If I got a client who's really trying to gain mass, lose weight, get it, tone up or whatever it happens to be, right? I'm probably going to do a 3-day training splits. We're going to go workout A, and that's going to be total body. Workout B, and that's also going to be total body. And workout C, which is going to be total body. So we're seeing a lot of total body workouts here. Now, I'm going to break this into our major categories. So we got legs, chest, back, shoulders, kind of important, right, as a major category, but there's a lot of like carryover between chest and shoulders. So I look at how I'm going to do this. Let's break down everything we've got, right? You got chest, back, we're going to go in NASM order here, back, shoulders, biceps, triceps, and legs. Now I can get through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 exercises in a workout pretty easily, even as straight sets. Probably get through 7 sets in a workout pretty easily. And that's actually going to be how we're going to kind of do this today. So this is going to be my workout A, my workout B, and my workout C. It's going to look like that, right? But I've probably got just a little bit of extra room in there, for one more exercise. This would take about 50 minutes. Gives me just enough time to get one more in. So if I throw an extra leg exercise in here, and I throw an extra chest exercise in here, and I throw an extra back exercise in here. Now, my biceps, triceps, and shoulders aren't quite getting the same amount of attention as like these categories, but these are pretty big more important muscles to me. So this is actually another one of my favorite training splits. This is another way that I really like to lay out a 3-day client. So I'm going to pick, 1, 2, 3, 4 chest exercises per week. 1, 2, 3, 4 back exercises per week, and 1, 2, 3, 4 leg. The rest of those are getting 3. Now, if I do this, let's go back to our numbers we used last. Let's go back to what was the classic workout? I said it was 3 sets of 10 was back in the day. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, I do the real classic 3 sets of 10 reps each. The 10 reps part is not really all that important, but let's just say 3 sets, right? So you think about that, right? I've got 3, 3, 3, and 3. So that's, for my chest, that's 3, 6, 9, and now I've made it into the window, 12 sets for my chest. And I'm only doing, at the very most, 2 chest exercises on one day. That's the type of thing that's going to make sure that I never run into junk volume. Ever. I don't have to worry about it because I'm only doing a maximum of 6. I could do 4, by the way. If I did 4, 8, 12, 16 sets per week, a little bit tougher to get the timing down on that. You're probably going to sacrifice your core and stuff. We don't want to do that necessarily. Although there is an argument to be made that those can be moved to a different day. It's something I want to show you guys tomorrow, actually. But we look and it's like, if I'm doing anywhere between, honestly, I'm allowed to pick somewhere between, look at this, 3 and 6 sets. 6 sets would actually be too much here. Obviously, I wouldn't have time for that anyways. It would be a 3-hour workout, but 6, 6, 6, and 6. That's 24 sets per week. That's actually too much now. So if I was doing that many sets, maybe I can just kill the little bonus ones here at the bottom. But this is sort of how you want to kind of picture. This is how I like to picture it in my head. Picture a chart like this, and I basically place the sets in place. Now, what about like those shoulders? What about the biceps and triceps? Well, again, you know me, I don't put as much emphasis on arm work. And then the shoulders are really getting a lot of like, assistance work from like your chest and your back there. So even if these are only getting 3, 6, 9 sets per week, that's still so close to the 10 to 20 window. So it's not perfectly optimal, but good Lord, is it close, So this is a very real, one of my favorite training splits here. Maybe not necessarily 3 sets of 10, depends on like, what my client's actual goals are. But this is where like, yeah, I can get a little bit of extra emphasis there, right? And that's how I'm going to lay that out in the goal of like muscular development. I'm really going to make sure that I'm getting, my workout A, workout B, and workout C. Do you guys see how I'm doing that? Does anybody have any questions before I keep moving forward? I know sometimes like this is a hard part to follow. How are we doing, guys?
I do have a question. When he was going into like talking about, okay, ideally you would be between 10 and 20 sets, but he never really talks about reps, right? And so
Yeah,
that's kind of where I'm confused, is like it's very vague about,
about effective reps.
right.
That's what's weird, man. They found that reps are a lot less important than effort. Reps are a means by which you can target specific parts of your metabolism and stuff. But like if you are taking your set somewhat close to failure, meaning you're just working really hard on your sets, it doesn't matter if that failure is 2 reps, because it's so freaking heavy, or if that number of reps was 23, and you couldn't get to 25 because you just had to tap out. As long as you are close to effort, at the end of your effort,
Yeah.
that's the most important part.
Okay, so that's why he was saying that at the 3rd level, It not really, I mean, if you're working easy, then you're not really going to see much improvement
Right.
after like intermediate phase. Okay.
And that's the thing about junk volume, right? You end up getting so tapped out that, like, yeah, you may be working hard, but you're not working intensely. You know what I mean? Yeah, I sometimes draw the distinction between those things, you know? It's just because it was like really difficult for you to do. It's like if I tried to tear this wall down, I could work really hard to do it, but I'm not using a sledgehammer, which is the most effective tool to thunk, like,
Yeah.
and but it's like I'm working so hard in the gym, and sometimes, the response is like, don't,
Yeah.
stop doing that, like make your training, a little easier, make it more intense and make it like to where your effort in that workout is hard. But like if you're feeling like mentally taxed all the time and just like it's like pulling teeth to get you to go to the gym, well, you're probably overtraining, which is making your training less effective.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
If hold on, give me a second to gather my thought process. If
Go get it.
because okay, so based off on the workout that you gave us, the one that we have on the screen right now,
This one, yep.
triceps and biceps would more along be used, not focused on, but mainly you worked out passively.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, passively. They're getting used. You know what I mean? Like they're not,
But just
I'm
not,
not ignoring biceps and triceps,
but not targeting particularly where you can like to the point where like they're kind of like hurting or
Right.
sore.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Jeff Nippert actually, the guy we watch, he is a big fan. And again, remember, he is an elite level bodybuilder. Okay, I want to remind everyone of that before I say this next part. He is actually a really big fan of one of his routines is this. He loves total body 5 days per week. And it actually looks just like this, except for, again, those bonuses become an extra legs, an extra chest, chest, an extra back, and because he is an elite level bodybuilder, which means he gets to stay in the gym all day, he just takes the extra time on his extra arm day. So he is a big fan of that version. So now, but then what it ends up also doing though is like that blows up the whole thing. So now it becomes 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. That is one of the routines that's available for purchase on his website. Undo all that. But yeah, he's not a fan of the whole passive arm stuff. But then again, he's also somebody getting up on a stage trying to make his arms look a very specific way, For the average client, Yasmin, passive arm training and honestly passive shoulder training that comes along with it.
It'll be perfectly fine.
You're gonna be fine. Yeah. So this is another one of my favorite training splits. But it does involve, now I got to build 3 workouts at one time. So let's go ahead and do that.
So one of the main things that the reason why they're trying to figure out what is classified as junk volume is mainly to be applied for the average person or more for the person who does this more consecutively or elite.
That is a very good question. I would still say the answer to that is both. It really applies to everyone. But yes, some people's capacity. Here's the thing. If you were doing this professionally, meaning like, let's say you get paid, right? Like you make your money getting up on stage and like getting YouTube sponsorships and, like the way that bodybuilders make a living, right? If you're doing that, you've got time and effort and availability for junk volume. You know what I mean? Like you don't necessarily you can do a little bit of junk volume, but what you don't have time for is like really bad results all the time. You know what I mean? Like that could really lead to some problems because now it's like, you are spending so much time not getting results. You need every ounce of results you can get. You know what I mean? This is why like supplements, right? I always tell people this, like people always ask me like, what are the best supplements? Like, what's the best thing I can take? And I always tell them like a good night's sleep is the best supplement you can take. And that's a crappy answer for a lot of people here. They're like, no, that's not what I mean. They're like, I want the thing that's going to give me better results. I'm like, what people don't really understand about like some of this optimization stuff, like the true, like perfectly optimized stuff, is that it takes you from 95 to 97, 98. Whereas just training in general got you from 0 to 95. You know what I mean? Like you got so far as a novice just doing the thing, just showing up on time. A lot of this optimization stuff is just to squeeze out that extra 5%, which isn't necessary for the average person. So it is but if you ask me blanket, like your question, like, is this applying to, it applies to both. But would I take that that extra effort that does give you 5% better results, but like tons of effort to get it? Would I take that with an amateur? No way. You know? Like, unleaded gas. Like, it's like you could put the more expensive gas in your car. It's not going to hurt your car, I don't think. I'm not a car expert. But like,
So in this sense, as long as the client is getting their actual workout and they're seeing results
mhm,
to the point where like they're feeling it, but they see it is fine.
absolutely. Yeah. For 99% of your clients, absolutely. Now, when they start to get to that like elite level, like I'll be honest, I don't consider myself necessarily like elite top level or anything like that in certain categories. But like, I've been training for a very, very long time. So the things that used to get me results when I first started training don't work anymore. It's kind of a bummer, but they're not a training stimulus that is new to my body. My body's like, we know this, and it doesn't actually hurt us that bad in the end. So we don't have to freak out and adapt. You know what I mean? It's
Is it
not.
the muscle memory?
What's that?
Is it the muscle memory?
Yeah, right. It's like, yeah, when something's brand new, you get big results. Actually, Jeff Nippard he did a roundtable discussion with James Krieger, the guy from the second video of the study he was talking about. So the two of them were talking, and they had a really interesting definition. Yasmin, what would you call a beginning? How would you classify? If you had a beginning, you had a moderately experienced, and then you had an expert lifter. And actually, Trisha, I'll chime you in on this because this could apply very much to cardio as well. And I know you're big on the cardio. How would you classify a beginner versus a moderate versus an expert? Yasmin, just go ahead and take a stab at it. Take a random guess. I'm doing this on purpose. I know you probably don't know. Don't be nervous.
No, I mean, for me, a beginner would be someone who hasn't had any actual exposure to, for example, like a weight room, or like
Okay.
wouldn't be able to know how to properly set up a machine and wouldn't know what to do if they were to walk into like the area. A moderate would be more like someone who does have an idea of what to do, like what to do warm up, what to do in regards to stretching, the activation, properly setting up either machines or knowing what they're working on and what exercises would benefit them based off on what they want to see as results.
Love that. Cool. I like your definitions. I don't think they're wrong. Trisha, you gonna take a stab at it?
Well, no. No.
Fair enough. I will not force anyone. Anybody else wants to chime in though? So I like Yasmin, you based it very much on this experiential journey. Your take on what a beginner is based on like knowledge and like experience like that, right? Some people, I think you'll hear out there would say, well, a novice is somebody who's been training a year or less. You know, moderate lifters, maybe 2 to 3 years. And like fully experienced lifters are like 5+ years, you know?
So it's all based on time doing it,
Well,
not,
actually, no.
okay,
I'm working there slowly.
got you.
So now you've got somebody who bases expertise on like a timeline, you know? So we got Yasmin's version, which is like kind of based on like knowledge, right? We've got my
Right.
version, which is sort of based on chronological, you know, like, oh yeah, you've been doing it for a long time, you're an expert, you know? Maybe it's based on somebody who has like really good form, you know, that's one way to do it. I think all of these are actually really good answers. I don't think any of these are wrong. But I will say what
I
I
would
find
think
really
it'd be a
interesting.
combination of all those things.
Well, here's the one that I found the most interesting that I would have never considered without like hearing somebody else bringing up some. So they're having this roundtable discussion. James Krieger is a famous exercise physiologist. I say famous. There are no famous exercise physiologists. But he's famous in that specific realm. He's just a nerd like me. So James, he says a beginner is somebody who, while they're probably progressing um, week to week, or maybe even month to month. So a beginner is experiencing, you know, they're going from 5 pound dumbbells and they're like, I feel really good. They move up to 8 pound dumbbells. 1 week later, I feel really good. They move up to 10 pound dumbbells. So there's somebody who experiences progression rapidly. That's a beginner. And then a moderate person is maybe somebody who's experiencing progression maybe once a month. They're on the bench press, 135. Week 2, still 135. Week 3, 135, but they're starting to like kind of feel a little bit better about it. Week 4, hey, let's try 140 today. And they do it, they pull it off, and they're like, yes. And then next workout they come in, let's try 145. Nope, failure. You know, okay, great, back to 140. You know, like so do 140 again, 30 days, you know. So maybe they're experiencing progress every like one, maybe a little bit longer than that month. And an expert is somebody who experiences progress every couple of months. So what we mean when we say something
Every
like
couple of what?
months.
I thought you said years. Okay, good.
No. So now it's like, oh, a beginner is somebody who hasn't tapped into their potential yet. So they're meeting that potential, they're on that road, and they're traveling really fast. Somebody who is more moderate, they've already achieved a lot of their potential. So their capacity for growth is, you know, as they get closer, you know, the resistance that they're coming up against is greater because they have to work harder to get the same results they used to. And an expert, it really takes a lot of effort. They need that, you know, extra 5% of efficiency that we talked about when I started this whole rant, out of their nutrition, and that 5% that they get from, you know, just the right rep scheme, and that extra 5% that they get from a supplement that they're taking, and that extra 5% that they get from just the perfect amount of training volume. And you put all that together, and they got a little bit of progress, you know, because they've already met so much of their potential that their capacity for growth is somewhat, you know, they're close to the ceiling. So now they have to actually push that freaking ceiling up, which is hard to do. So I'm not saying that's the only way to consider a beginner or a moderate trainer or an expert trainer, a lifter, not trainer. Let's keep us out of this. I'm not saying that's actually what makes, you know, those three things. I think it's a little bit of timeline. I think a little bit of it is knowledge, like you're saying. Some of it is just experience, wisdom versus intelligence, you know. I think a little bit of it is all those things coming together. But I do like considering James Krieger's take on that. I'm like, that's a very fascinating way to look at things, you know. Think about like when you first started walking as an infant, you know, like 1 feet was like, did you see they walked 1 full foot? Like like 12 inches, like they did it, that was amazing, right? And then like the next day, 2 feet, 3 feet, like that's a 1 foot to 2 feet, that's a 100% increase. Um, and then, I mean, Trisha, you can tell, I'm sure from experience, like once you've achieved your first like mile run, getting the next mile run doesn't happen the next day. It's your progress slows a little bit. Or getting your first 13 miles is like, I did it for the first time ever. And it's like, you're not running 16 miles the next day.
Right.
It's going to be 13 for a little while until eventually that's comfortable too. Um, so Yasmin, I know this is a little bit of we kind of pivoted your conversation just a little bit, but to tie it back to what you asked specifically, because I want to make sure, you know, that 5%, like that is what an expert level, that's where this really becomes important. If you're getting 9 sets per week, which is not between the 10 to 20 window, but your client is a total beginner, they're going to get great results. They really are. You know, no, they went from 0 sets per week to 9. That's going to be really good. So laying our volume out like this, and just assuming that we're getting some passive shoulder, bicep, and tricep while getting optimal leg, chest, and back, I think we're going to be in a really, really good spot. And I've definitely seen very good results with my clients on programs like this, both in terms of strength and muscle growth and toning and all the things that we're sort of hired for. How's that feel, guys? Questions on that? I know I talked for a little bit, so I need to recheck back in. Everybody good on that?
Yeah.
What on the difference between the three?
Just optimizing. Just any comments?
Yeah.
I want to make sure the whole term of optimizing is clear.
Okay. Yes.
Or any other questions? What am I doing Saturday night? No. All right. So let's take a look. Let's build this. This is, like I said, this is actually one of my favorite routines as well. I do this program a lot, and then I just swap out exercises depending on the client and what they need, in lots and lots and lots of varieties. I do have to get 3 of these on screen simultaneously, so they might get a little small. So we're going to save this as phase 3 muscular development, 3-day split, workout A. Longest file name ever. Paste, make another one. Except that you are workout B. And you are workout C. Ta-da! Is that? Open that, minimize that, and open that. All right. Wait, what did I do? Oh my god. I work, oh, okay, that's C, that's A, open B. There we go. Now, I'm gonna try something cool. Let's see if this works. Show windows side by side. No, stupid. You tell me, guys, is that side by side? Get it together, Windows. Bill Gates, help me out here. All right. So here's our workout
Side
A.
by side.
Right. It was like, hey, do side by side. And it goes 1, 2, 3. I'm like, that's been a glitch for like 2 versions of Windows now. Like it's been doing that that's like we're going on like 6, 7 years. All right. So we've got, this is phase 3. Got to build these all side by side. And we're going to say this is total body Well, actually, what are you? These might be in a random order. We're gonna say you're A. And I'll change the file names later if I have to. Doesn't really matter. Total body A. Total body B. And total body C. Ta-da! All right. So cool. All in phase 3, all total body. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at how we would do this. Now, because they're total body workouts, we want to warm everything up at least a little bit, right? So, Lisa, to your question from way earlier, right? Do I skip balance sometimes? In a workout like this, probably not. You know, they're going to have some leg work in there every time. So I'm probably going to do one core exercise and one balance exercise. And that's going to be my little bit of activation time. So let me blow this up just because it looks nicer and easier to work with. So we're going to go with SMR. Now, what's nice is like I really can kind of get all over the place here with the foam rolling, which is really cool, right? So I can go hip flexors. You know, a different hip flexor that I oftentimes want to work on is the TFL. So over here, I'll do TFL. Right. Over here, I might go piriformis. All right. Let's get the lats in on this one. Let's get the pec minor in on this one. And let's go thoracic spine on this one. So again, I'm kind of working my way side by side by side, right? And then I probably want to get my calves in there. Oh, wow, I keep forgetting about adductors lately, so we're going to put adductors in there. And then over here, honestly, that's kind of like most of the ones that are in our textbook, you know. But I guess I could throw hamstrings in there. Okay, nothing wrong with that. So that's all going to be for one set of 30 seconds. Again, we're still in the strength level here, which means I'm going to be doing active stretches here, right? So we're very much doing active. Now I'm going to follow up with what I worked on. So I'm going to do an active kneeling hip flexor stretch. Let's do an active standing lat stretch. We're stealing a lot of the same stretches from last time. We'll do an active heel drop stretch. Over here, active standing TFL stretch, active pectoral wall stretch, active standing adductor stretch. Now, the piriformis is going to put me on the ground, and so are the hamstrings. So we'll go with an active figure 4 stretch. Let's go with an active cat-cow stretch and an active 90-90 hamstring stretch. So figure 4 is that one where your leg is on top, and so you pull your opposite knee towards your chest, so that drags your into your thigh. So we see our figure 4 stretch here. Decent one for the glutes. The 90-90 hamstring stretch. This version right here. Straightening that leg. Oh, look at that. He's even doing the active version. Hey, look at us. That's pretty good. Most versions of things that I Google are very static versions. That's fun. So now it's like, okay, great. Like that workout, that actually kind of flowed together pretty well there. Now, really quickly, just addressing one thing that some of you guys might be thinking if you've been in some of my other classes. You guys will notice I'm doing very generalized warm-ups here. I'm just picking muscles at random. In real life, I would base it on my client's posture. You know what I mean? If they've got stubbornly tight calves, I'm probably stretching those every time, you know? If they've got, you know, knee pain, runner's knee, runner's hip, something like that, I'm stretching that TFL every time, you know? But for today, This is just sort of the idealized, example here. Let's go with those 2 sets for our stretches. 10 reps each. You know what? Just because we can pick less, I'm gonna go 8 reps each. I almost always I do 10 every time. But again, remember the range is you can do anywhere between 5 and 10. Hold each rep 1 to 2 second hold. And there we go. Ta-da! So getting into core stuff, I'm really only getting to work on, different sections of the core. I've only got space for one exercise in our examples here. So I'm probably going to go with your classic stability ball crunch. Maybe over here, I'll go with back extensions. And maybe over here, I'll go with that cable wood chop high to low. High to low, by the way, is the version of the wood chop where you're going like this. It's very good for working on your obliques and crunching. You can also do low to high, which is actually very good for your spinal extensors on the backside. Both of those are really good. Oops, sorry, 1 second, guys. Ooh. Guys, would you give me, sorry, I'm gonna pause the recording here just so this doesn't goof me up. You know what? I'm gonna show a video on the fly. I've got a little bit of drama downstairs. I have to go check out something. Sorry, 1 second. So sorry about this, but I'm gonna pull up a sort of backup video here. I just want to make sure it's okay downstairs.
Welcome.
All right. I'll be right back. I am so sorry. So back to where we were talking about our core, and we worked like our 3 main areas, right, front, sides, and back. And now we're going to get a little bit of balance training in there. So we might do something like a lunge to balance here. We might do a single leg touch down here. And maybe we will do a little bit of a step up to balance here. So that's pretty good. None of those are really counting too much on our training volume for our legs. Maybe a little bit there, but not much, just because they are relatively gentle. These are activation exercises. We're not going super high on the intensity. We're not taking the set to failure or anything like that. For sets, we're going to go with 3. For reps, we're going to go with 10. We'll go with 10 each there because it's a balance exercise, so that's 1 side each. For our tempo, we're going to go with moderate for both. And let's save some time and do this as a superset. So same thing there, except the cable wood chop got to be 10 each. That's a single-sided. Cool. Take out our gaps here just because I think that makes our workout look a little cleaner. We're probably gonna need the space down here. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just in the coaching tips just to keep my brain nice and clear here. I'm gonna write down like all the things that I'm trying to hit: chest, back, shoulders, biceps, triceps, legs, plus legs. And then I'm gonna show you how I like to reorganize those things. So chest, back, shoulders, biceps, triceps, legs, and in this case, 1 extra legs. Over here, 1 extra chest. And over here, 1 extra upper back. Cool. Now, do I love that order? No. This is one thing that I do like to do on these workouts, but I didn't want to do it on paint because it gets real complicated. I do think that now we have a sort of chest day, back day, leg day sort of situation here, right? Double leg, double chest, double back, which means that's sort of the star of the show. In my opinion, you should always put the star of the show at the top of your workout. So this is the double leg day. So I'm just going to move these over here so that I can move all of this down here. So we're going to start with the leg stuff. Same concept here. We've got sort of a double chest day. So I'm just going to move my chest stuff together at the top. Over here, we got a double back day. I'm just going to move that together here. Huzzah! Now I've arranged it in a way that I think makes way more sense. Now all we have to do is pick strength level exercises for these things and get some variety in. So on, main leg day, I'm probably going to focus on the most important leg exercise out there and the most important strength variation, probably your classic barbell squat. Maybe a front squat variation would be good. Maybe a sissy squat or, something like that is good. But, our basic brand of exercises, we want to get our sort of main ones out. So let's do that same principle with the chest. Go with the bench press. Do that same principle with our upper back. We'll go with the bent over row. Right? Now, we've addressed, now you start to put our concepts together. We talked about the whole push, pull, squat, hinge thing, right? Push, pull, squat, hinge, press thing, right? So let's follow along with that concept, right? Maybe over here, I'm missing my press. So I go over to the shoulder exercise here. Military press with a barbell, right? Really good. So now I've got, let's see, on my squat, barbell squat over here, I got my squat, I've got my press, I got my push, and I got my pull. I'm missing my hinge. Probably don't want to put it on the same day that I'm doing really heavy squat stuff though. So let's give us some space there. Let's put that deadlift, that barbell deadlift on leg day over here, far away from our heavy barbell squat, And that way I'm ensuring that I'm not, putting too much like neurological training stress in one workout. I can do it, I'm just gonna do a slight variation there. Okay, so now I've addressed my big five: push, pull, squat, press, hinge. That's pretty good. And I've laid out my training volume in a way that the rest of this can very much be filled with accessory work. So I go back over here. I do need another leg exercise though. So why don't we do something like a barbell hip extension, right? So barbell hip extension is a really good one. Hip thrusts, if you want to call it that. Go on, internet. So right here, let's get a GIF. Getting that pad, getting that bench. Is my wife using the microwave? My internet is not going quick right now. Can you guys hear me? Is it okay? What is going on? There we go. So hip thrusts, really good one. They'll say that. We'll say hip thrusts. Right, now we've got some chest stuff here. Let's get an incline chest press in. It's one of my favorites. Dumbbell, incline, chest press. We don't have a vertical pull yet, so let's do maybe let's do a vertical pull here. Let's do a assisted pull-up. So we use the pull-up machine. And then we're just going to throw our arms at the very end here. We'll do a cable curl and a cable tricep press down. Now, I will say this, just for those of you who are checking my work here. Anytime you see the cable machine, a lot of times you should probably be thinking stabilization. But there's just the cable curl and the cable tricep press. You're just so close to the thing. You're just, and you're both legs down. So it really is a very, very stable. There's not a lot of wiggle room there. Both of those are, in my opinion, should be considered like strength variants, you know? But if you have like a cable chest press, gets a little wobbly. I like to think of that more as a stabilization variation. Over here, we need a second chest exercise. We've already done our heavy bench press. Why don't we do a dumbbell chest fly? So dumbbells in hands, flying out here. Personally, I'm not a big fan of flies. I said that yesterday. I think they are relatively ineffective for strength, but there's a hypertrophy workout, and this is about getting enough training volume to induce stress. Flies are pretty good at making you sore. So they're actually a pretty good option here. Let's see. Next one I'm going into is my upper back. Let's do a kneeling dumbbell 2-point row. It's kind of a classic. It's a really good one if you've got dumbbells at home. Just a great exercise for your posture. What is going on with Google Chrome? I don't think it's my internet. I think it's Chrome. So not this version where he is just by himself in the middle of the floor. We're going to go with the version where we are supported with a bench. And using that bench as support is going to make this a strength variation rather than having no support, which would make it a stabilization variation. For our shoulders here, we have got, we've already gotten our military press. So let's do maybe like a dumbbell raise, dumbbell raise. So dumbbell lateral raise. So arms out to the side. Let's go with biceps and triceps. We've been doing a lot of dumbbell stuff on this day. So let's do a dumbbell standing, we'll do a hammer curl. Right? So that was just a curl with hands in neutral position instead of supinated or pronated. So just neutral and curl like this. Gets a little bit more brachioradialis in there. And then because we're doing that, let's do the supine dumbbell skull crushers. Right? So again, neutral grip right in here. Lastly, we need a leg exercise. And we've done a little bit of a single leg touchdown. So we got our glutes turned on a little bit. So let's go with a little bit more glute action here. I think that'll work well. Let's see. We've got hip thrust, we've got squats, we've got a deadlift in there. Actually, you know what? This is a hypertrophy workout, and I said I wanted to use more. I forgot I wanted to use more machines because I wanted to incorporate. Let's do a hamstring curl machine. And I will remember to do machines more on this total body C day. Cool. So now we got everything filled out. Over here, we need a second upper back exercise. We got a row already. So probably another pull down variation, something like a lat pull down. Right? And you know what? Just to get a little bit more, we'll go reverse grip, lat pull down. So instead of pulling down like this, we're going to do this way. So we focus a little bit more on shoulder extension. On our row, we were going this way. So now we've really kind of hit our back in all of the various ways. We have pulled this way, we've pulled this way, we've pulled this way, and this way, which is kind of the same as this one. But really making sure we're kind of getting very well rounded here in order to prevent our upper back from being well rounded. The cheesiest joke I've ever made. Because we don't want rounded backs, right? Okay, moving on. All right, for our chest, looking at what we've got so far, we've got the bench press, we've got a fly, we've got an incline press. So already doing pretty good there, you know? So in this case, let's just go with a dumbbell chest press. Very similar. Oh no, I said I want to do machines. Good Lord. Machines. Machine, decline, chest press. There we go. So we'll push at that sort of downward angle there. And now we've hit an upward angle, a neutral angle a couple times, and a downward angle. Lastly, for the shoulders here. Now, we've got a good lateral raise. We've got a good overhead press. So we could do another machine here, right? We could do a front raise would probably be a really good one. I think that would round things out really nicely. But we also haven't really addressed the posterior side of those shoulders. So I think a really good one could be that machine reverse fly. So that way we're going to work on the posterior side of our deltoids, where you hold like this and you pull straight back. It also fits really well on upper back day here. Bicep curl machine. And triceps extension machine. So this is very well vertically loaded the way NASM likes to do things. I do want to throw my 2 cents in here one more time and just tell you something that I think is a little bit weird. We've got all this, I don't know, there's a lot of like, in fact, actually, I would like to, yeah. I'm looking at this and I'm like, the leg stuff at the very end. With the machine day, it kind of makes sense. I don't love the deadlift being at the very end here. The main emphasis is supposed to be upper back this day. But if I were really doing this, I would probably put deadlifts first. If I've got legs in a workout, guys, as long as it's not just hamstrings or quadriceps, I almost always do legs first. NASM doesn't do that because they are a big fan of this idea of like top loading the body and moving blood from here down through the workout. But if you're looking at this workout and you have opinions similar to mine, I'm looking at this deadlift at the end here and I'm like, it's a weird spot for a deadlift. If anything, I really am super focused on all this stuff. And I want to have like stars of the show at the front. I'd probably put it right here before I get into chest and shoulders and stuff. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep this really simple for you guys as our example. So we're going to do the classic 3 sets of everything. Moderate tempo for everything. And we'll take 60 seconds of rest on everything. So now everything is very much evenly laid out here. What did you do? Now you'll notice I didn't do reps. Let's talk about that real quick. So I said we're going to emphasize squatting, pulling, and pushing. So we're going to get fancy with those 3 particular emphasis things. So 3 sets of, we're going to go with 6 on our squats, bench press, and bent over row. So what I am doing is now introducing this concept of heavy lifting to a client that isn't necessarily in a heavy lifting program. The rest of this, let's do 8 to 10. Now what I'm going to do here with that 8 to 10, the reason I'm giving this a range, still within the 6 to 12 rep window. But what's really cool about 8 to 10 reps is, like, let's say I'm training Frank. I'd say, okay, Frank, I want you to do 8 to 10 reps. That means set 1, you're going to try to get to 10. Set 2, you're going to try to get 10. Set 3, you're going to try to get 10. But if you get 10 on all 3 sets, next time you come in here, make it a little bit heavier, aim for 10 again. But if you get to 8, that's perfect. Now, if you get like 8, 8, and then like 4, you know what I mean? That means it's probably too heavy. Back off on the weight a little bit. You know what I mean? So now I'm giving him a rep window to stay within. It's still within that hypertrophy window. And Lisa, you touched on this earlier, right? You were like, I'm not seeing a lot about reps. Well, if I give a rep window, the reason we said reps were a little bit less important is because it's important to push as hard as you can. That's more important. So if I give you a rep window, that ensures that you're now going to push as hard as you can. If you can get 10 for all three, it's probably too light. If you can't get 8 for all three, it's probably too heavy. Although I would rather it be too heavy than I would rather have it be too light. If I had to pick, because that does mean you're still working as hard as you can. So you can see here, all I did was just kind of lay out my volume and pick exercises that kind of fit with my workout routine. Now, again, I do want to finish this up with some static stretches. So I'm going to change this to static on all of these. Wow. Good Lord. Um, and we want to go with that one set of 30 seconds each for all of these. But for the most part, all I had to do was kind of fill these out. And now I'm really doing a good job of making sure that I'm hitting my total training volume. In real life, let's say I get an even more advanced client, like Yasmin, let's say the same client, right? Let's say I'm training Aaron. Aaron, you've been training with me for, a couple months. You're getting pretty darn good at this stuff. Your progress is actually slowing down just a little bit because you're getting to be a little bit more advanced. What I might do is I might start sacrificing a little bit of this arm stuff. Because again, arm stuff is going to happen, to Yasmin's point, it's going to happen kind of passively. Or, I start to kind of guess that my clients are probably doing extra arm stuff on their own. That happens a lot. I'll sneak their little extra bits of volume in every now and then. But if I start to do that and I start to get rid of like some of this bicep tricep stuff, that really frees up a lot of my time. So then maybe this stops being 3 sets and it starts becoming 4 sets. And my workouts get a little, they don't have to get any longer, even though I am adding sets to the routine. So that is also an option that I have for progression later. All of these options in terms of, and then I can change up the exercises and keep this exact same skeleton. Pick totally different exercises instead of these. So hopefully you guys are saying, again, like we followed everyone in ASIM's rules today. We actually didn't, I say today in general, I guess for these 3 workouts, we stayed, I definitely broke the rules in our first example this morning. But in these examples, we definitely made it a little bit more advanced while staying well within the rules and looking at some other research outside of what NASM talks about because we started really focusing on training volume and training frequency, which are 2 things that the rest of the strength training community really focuses on. So questions, comments, concerns, what do you guys got for me? How are we feeling about these workouts? Does this make sense? See how this is different than strength endurance? Start getting heavier, not maximally heavy, but somewhat heavy. Start having more volume through a variety of different exercises.
We're good.
Feeling good? I'm giving you guys my De Niro face here. All right. All right. Cool. I just put the workouts in the chat. So now you guys have 5 workouts to download. And by the way, you could take this exact same format, this whole total body thing here. Remember I said like the 1-day training split that you just do over and over and over and over again? Swap all these exercises out for stabilization variations and then get rid of like the doubler. And suddenly you've got a very good single day workout split that can be performed 3 days a week for a true beginner. Just make it a stabilization version. All right. Trish, I heard you say something for a second, but I'm not sure if your mic cut out or something.
That was a hiccup.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
I
Good.
literally hiccuped.
All right. Cool. All right, guys. Thank you for bearing with me. I know, this stuff a little bit different to see in person. Tomorrow we'll review with hypertrophy, and then we will work our way into max strength tomorrow. So we're gonna get some heavier examples of stuff.